Hello, everyone. Today you will be moved by the story of Sofia Oliveira, a woman who, at a luxurious party, is confronted with prejudice that challenges her dignity. But everything changes when her husband, Rafael, reveals a surprising truth that transforms their lives and starts a powerful fight against discrimination. Get ready for a journey of overcoming, love, and determination that will surely touch your hearts. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any updates. We are curious to know which city you are watching from, so leave it in the comments. Let's explore this inspiring narrative together. What happens when a dream turns into a nightmare? In Los Angeles, young Sofia Oliveira, with black skin, finds herself immersed in a gala night that should be magical. At first, she feels like the queen of the world, stunning in her dress, surrounded by people who seem to admire her beauty. However, as the night progresses, disdainful looks and malicious comments begin to accumulate like dark clouds in a clear sky. What was once a celebration transforms into an agonizing experience, where Sofia realizes that beauty and glamour can hide a dark side. Sofia has always dreamed of being accepted and welcomed with open arms in this world full of lights and smiles. Since childhood, she faced challenges because of her skin color, and although she managed to heal some of her inner wounds, insecurity still accompanied her. That night, looking around, she wonders if she truly belongs in that place, or if she is just an intruder in a world that does not accept her. Sofia's internal conflict intensifies when her husband, Rafael, reveals that he is the new owner of Mendonça Industries, a large corporation that, despite its facade of success, is known for its dubious and prejudiced practices. The revelation changes everything for Sofia. She not only has to deal with the implications of Rafael's new position, but also with the pressure to fit into an environment that breathes elitism and discrimination. Together, they decide to found the Oliveira Foundation, a space that becomes a beacon of hope and resistance for those facing prejudice. However, the fight against discrimination is not just external. Sofia and Rafael confront their own insecurities while trying to establish themselves as change leaders in a world that constantly challenges them. Sofia's initial interactions with her new acquaintances are filled with tension. She realizes that, even among smiles, many look at her with disdain, as if her presence were an affront. Anxiety grows when the Mendonça family, an influential and powerful family, begins to make moves to dismantle the foundation that she and Rafael established. The pressure mounts, and as the challenges accumulate, Sofia finds herself in a battle not only for acceptance, but for the very essence of who she is. As the story unfolds, Sofia's struggle for justice and equality intertwines with current social issues, making her journey resonate with many. She becomes a symbol of resistance and hope, inspiring a new generation to stand up against discrimination. The impact of her journey is not just personal, it reverberates throughout the community, showing that even the darkest moments can be transformative and lead to meaningful change. Sofia's trajectory serves as a powerful reminder that true strength can emerge even in the most challenging circumstances. The gala night turned into a true test for Sofia. As she tried to absorb the new reality of her life, the interactions that once seemed promising began to unravel into a tangle of distrust and disdain. The environment surrounding her, filled with wealth and ostentation, now felt suffocating. Sofia looked at the shimmering dress she wore, a piece that should symbolize her triumph, but now felt like a trap, highlighting her presence in a negative way. She felt the gaze of some women who, with forced smiles, evaluated her as if she were an exotic object in a showcase. Rafael, her husband, was by her side, but Sofia noticed that he also seemed lost. His interactions with the members of the elite were cold, and he, who had always been so confident, now appeared insecure. As she stepped away from the party for a moment, Sofia found a window to breathe, but the fresh air could not shake off the feeling of emotional claustrophobia that enveloped her. The pressure to fit in, to please, left her restless. What should have been a moment of celebration was becoming a burden. She remembered her conversations with her grandmother, who always taught her to value herself and to fight against discrimination. But now, among people who did not see her as an equal, her grandmother's message seemed distant. Sofia began to question her inner strength. Was she really capable of facing this world? Or was she destined to be an intruder, always on the margins? As the night progressed, Sofia began to notice a group of people talking in a corner. They were the Mendonças, the powerful family that was now becoming a shadow in her life. She had heard stories about them, about how they controlled everything around them relentlessly. The patriarch, Alberto Mendonça, was a man who seemed to have the ability to make and break reputations with a simple look. Upon spotting Sofia, he made an almost imperceptible gesture, but it sent a chill down her spine. It was as if he was drawing a line between them, and Sofia was clearly on the outside. The encounter with the Mendonças would become inevitable. Sofia was introduced to them by Rafael, who was trying to be cordial but was clearly tense. Sofia managed to smile, but the feeling of distrust was palpable. The matriarch of the family, Helena, looked at Sofia and said, "Ah, how lovely. It's so nice to see a new face among us." But the word sounded empty, as if she were merely fulfilling a protocol. Deep down, Sofia felt that Helena and her children saw her as a threat. The Oliveira Foundation, which she and Rafael had established, was a beacon of hope. But for the Mendonça family, it was a sore. They were known for their unethical practices, and the idea of a movement fighting against discrimination put them on alert. Sofia knew that the battle was just beginning. The first major obstacle arose quickly. An article in the local press brought to light the foundation's past, highlighting Rafael's connection to Mendonça Industries. He was questioned about the true intention behind the foundation, as if he were merely trying to clean up his image. Sofia was devastated. The trust they had built was threatened. And once again, she found herself in doubt. Could they really make a difference? Or were they just feeding yet another cycle of superficiality? The pressure was intense. Sofia began to feel guilty and demotivated. The messages of support she received from her friends felt distant, and she found herself questioning her deepest beliefs. What did it really mean to fight for justice in a world that seemed so opposed to her ideals? Each day, her inner strength was tested, and every new challenge felt like a painful reminder of her insecurities. However, something inside her refused to give in. Sofia began to seek support from people who also faced discrimination, hoping to find a greater purpose. She met Anna, a local artist who had been a target of prejudice for her color and style. Anna became an unexpected friend and a source of inspiration. Together, they talked about their experiences and what it meant to be a woman in such an unequal world. This friendship began to blossom, but it was tested by the external pressure they both faced. With each step Sofia took, she felt closer to her true essence, but fears still haunted her. She knew that the fight was far from over, and that the Mendonça family was determined to silence her. The feeling of despair and helplessness became a constant, but the flame of resistance began to ignite again in her heart. Sofia was ready to face whatever came, not just for herself, but for all the voices that had yet to be heard. Sofia felt the weight of expectations growing with each passing day. The pressure from her surroundings became almost unbearable, as if everyone expected her to behave in a way that didn't feel natural. The search for acceptance transformed into a labyrinth of insecurities. Every time she saw the Mendonças at social events, the tension increased. Their presence was like a shadow that followed her, constantly reminding her that she was an intruder in that world of wealth and power. The article in the local press was not just a blow to the Oliveira Foundation, but also a personal attack on Sofia and Rafael. The messages of support they received were overshadowed by malicious comments and scrutinizing glances. Sofia felt her identity being deconstructed in the whispered conversations around her. Rafael tried to stay calm, but she noticed the frustration and worry in his eyes. They were in this fight together, but the feeling that they were losing the battle was palpable. In a moment of despair, Sofia decided she needed to take action. Together with Anna, she began to plan an event to promote the foundation and its cause. They wanted to show that discrimination was not just a personal issue, but a collective struggle that affected many lives. However, executing the event was not so simple. The city was full of opposing voices, and the Mendonças were determined to silence any movement that threatened their interests. The following weeks were a whirlwind of emotions. During the preparations, Sofia and Anna faced unexpected challenges. The first major difficulty arose when the event venue, a space they had reserved with great care, was canceled under pressure from investors who feared repercussions from the Mendonças. Frustration took over Sofia, and she felt powerless once again in the face of forces that always seemed one step ahead. But instead of succumbing to disillusionment, Sofia decided she could not stop. With Anna's support, they searched for new venues. and their determination began to turn into a contagious force. However, with each new attempt, obstacles emerged. The funding, which initially seemed secure, started to dwindle as some sponsors withdrew for fear of being associated with a cause that could harm their reputations. Each day, the pressure increased, and the idea of failure became a constant shadow. The nights were long and exhausting. Sofia often woke up with a racing heart, thinking of the veiled threats the Mendonças could make. The insecurity began to affect her physical health. She felt tired and drained, and anxiety became a constant companion. Rafael tried to comfort her, but often he also felt the weight of the pressure, making it difficult for him to provide the support she needed. One night, while discussing the challenges they faced, Sofia realized she was drifting away from Rafael. The conversations that once brimmed with dreams and plans were now merely discussions about how to survive the next crisis. This realization shook her deeply. She didn't want to lose the connection they had, but the battle they were fighting seemed to be consuming everything around them. The love they felt, once vibrant and strong, began to fade amid the uncertainties. It was in this moment of reflection that she decided she needed to act differently. Instead of succumbing to the pressure, she decided to use the situation to her advantage. Sofia began to connect with other organizations and activists facing similar challenges. This new approach brought a breath of hope. She remembered the conversations with her grandmother about the strength of community. With Anna by her side, they created a support network where voices that had once been silenced could be heard. Meanwhile, the Mendonças, realizing that the pressure was turning against them, began to act more aggressively. Sofia started receiving anonymous threats, and the atmosphere of distrust grew. However, instead of backing down, this situation propelled her to unite even more with those willing to fight. The event they were organizing became a platform, not only for their cause, but also for other voices fighting against discrimination. Sofia realized that every obstacle she faced made her stronger. Failures and disappointments were transforming into life lessons. She began to understand that the battle was not just about winning or losing, but about the courage to stand up and keep fighting. With each step she took, friendships deepened, and solidarity was born in the midst of adversity. The path ahead was still uncertain, but Sofia's determination was stronger than ever. She knew she would have to confront the Mendonças and their maneuvers, but she was ready to fight not just for herself, but for all those who had no voice. The journey was far from easy, but the flame of resistance now burned brightly within her. Tension filled the air when the day of the event finally arrived. Sofia and Anna, despite all the difficulties, were excited but anxious. The venue, a community space they managed to reserve after several attempts, was decorated with colorful posters and images representing the struggle for acceptance and inclusion. Friends and supporters had arrived early to help, but the atmosphere of anticipation was palpable. They knew the Mendonças would not stand idly by, and that any movement could be a provocation. When the first people began to arrive, Sofia felt a mix of hope and fear. She looked at Anna, who was by her side, and saw the same determination in her eyes. The soft music in the background and the lively conversations brought a positive energy. But deep down, there was a feeling that something could go wrong at any moment. Meanwhile, Rafael was at the entrance, welcoming guests with a smile, trying to keep calm. However, when the event began, the atmosphere transformed. A group of people started arriving, and soon Sofia realized they were supporters of the Mendonças. They were not there to participate, but to intimidate. The laughter and lively conversation turned into nervous whispers. Sofia felt her heart race. It was as if the shadow that had been following her was now exposed to the light of day, ready to devour her. One of the men from the Mendonça group, a well-known social commentator, took to the stage and began to speak. His words were sharp as knives, and the audience fell silent. He attacked not only the foundation but also the integrity of Sofia and Rafael. What was supposed to be a celebration quickly turned into a verbal battlefield. Sofia felt her hands tremble as she listened to the cruel words echoing in the room. It was a public humiliation, and the pain was unbearable. What should have been a moment of unity and strength was becoming a nightmare. Anna tried to intervene, but the man ignored her, continuing to attack. Sofia's indignation grew, and she realized she could no longer remain silent. With a surge of determination, she climbed onto the stage. The audience looked at her, surprised and anxious. Sofia took a deep breath and, with a trembling voice, began to speak about the importance of empathy and unity. She shared stories of people who had been helped by the foundation, emphasizing that the struggle was not just hers, but that of everyone who felt marginalized and helpless. But deep down, Sofia's confidence was wavering. The attack from the Mendonças had left deep marks on her soul. After her speech, the silence lingered, and the reaction was mixed. Some applauded, while others exchanged looks of disdain. Sofia felt vulnerable and exposed, as if she had stripped before a hostile audience. The humiliation was overwhelming. After the event, as the team tried to dismantle the setup, Sofia sat in a corner, her head in her hands. Tears streamed down her face. Rafael approached, concerned, and hugged her. "You were amazing, Sofia. Don't let them bring you down," he said softly. But the truth was that she felt defeated. The event that was supposed to be a turning point had turned into a battlefield, and now, more than ever, the pressure felt unbearable. That night, as she tried to sleep, Sofia couldn't stop thinking about everything that had happened. The commentator's words echoed in her mind, and she found herself questioning her choices. Did she really have the strength to keep going? The fight felt so lonely and difficult. She thought about giving up, about leaving everything behind, but at the same time, a small voice inside her whispered that this was not the solution. The emotional impact of that night led Sofia to reflect on what success and acceptance meant. She realized she had been carried away by the idea that others' approval was essential. But now she understood that true success was not about being on a pedestal, but rather being true to herself and her cause. This epiphany awakened her to the reality that the struggle was greater than her own pain. With this new perspective, she decided she would not let herself be defeated. Sofia knew she needed to gather the team and those who believed in the cause. Together, they could overcome challenges and confront the Mendonças in a way that was not just reactive, but proactive. The idea of creating a support network became clearer than ever. And looking at Rafael, she felt that despite all the difficulties, there was an unbreakable strength in the connection they had. From that moment on, Sofia decided that she would not only fight for herself, but for all those who felt oppressed. She was ready to start over, not just as a woman seeking acceptance, but as a leader willing to challenge the system. And with Anna and Rafael by her side, she began to redirect her energy, not to defend herself, but to promote true change. The road ahead was still uncertain, but Sofia's determination was stronger than ever, and the flame of resistance now burned intensely within her. Sofia woke up the next morning with a new determination pulsing in her chest. The event from the previous night was still fresh in her memory, but now the commentator's words no longer dominated her. Instead, she felt as if she had gone through a test and come out stronger. The pain she felt from being publicly attacked now fueled her desire to fight for a greater cause. She remembered the conversation she had with Anna and Rafael. Together, they could turn frustration and sadness into action. Sofia decided she needed to meet with them as soon as possible. Throughout the day, she worked on a new plan for the foundation, something that could further unite the community and transform indignation into a positive force. When she met with Anna and Rafael, Sofia realized that they were both equally motivated. Anna had brought a list of ideas for future events, and Rafael was ready to help strengthen communication on social media. They discussed how they could create a safe space for people to share their stories, a place where acceptance would be the main focus. Meanwhile, the consequences of the event were still unfolding. In the following days, Sofia began to receive messages of support, but also some of hate. There were people who felt offended by her courage to speak out. Each notification on her phone was a reminder that the fight would not be easy. The emotional pressure began to weigh on her again, and Sofia found herself struggling to balance hope with fear. In a moment of loneliness, while reviewing some messages, Sofia began to cry again. The tears were a mix of frustration and relief. The support she received from friends and strangers was encouraging, but the criticism felt like thorns in her heart. She remembered Rafael comforting her the night before and decided she needed to talk to him about how she felt. That afternoon, as they walked through the central square of the city, Sofia opened up to Rafael. She said that she thought by exposing herself, people would understand. But now she felt more vulnerable than ever. Rafael stopped and looked her in the eyes. He told her that she was stronger than she imagined. They couldn't control how people reacted, but they could control their response. And she was already doing that, he replied firmly. Those words brought her some comfort. Sofia realized she was not alone on this path. She had friends and supporters who believed in her and the cause. Together, they could face adversity. However, the shadow of the Mendonças still loomed over them. Sofia knew the group would not give up easily. They were persistent and could create more obstacles. One morning, while organizing a new event, a group of people appeared at the door of the community space. They were some of the Mendonça supporters, armed with signs and shouts of protest. The tension in the air was palpable. Sofia felt her stomach churn, but instead of retreating, she decided it was time to assert herself. With the help of Anna and Rafael, she organized an open dialogue. She welcomed the opposing group, surprising everyone. The dialogue was difficult, with insults and provocations arising, but Sofia and her team stood firm. They listened to the concerns of the group, and slowly, some people began to lower their guard. Sofia remembered her determination to promote empathy and began to share stories of lives transformed by the foundation. She saw some of the opponents begin to reflect. After the tumult, Sofia sat on a bench, exhausted but satisfied. The fight was not being won, but she was making a difference, even if small. Anna joined her and commented that she saw how some people really listened. That was a start. Sofia smiled, feeling that despite the new challenges, there was a path ahead, but there was a new pressure, the need to deal with the constant presence of the Mendonças. Sofia knew she would need more allies and that she would have to prepare for what was to come. The battle was just beginning, and the determination within her grew stronger every day. She realized that her voice could be a powerful tool, and even in the face of adversity, she was determined to use it to inspire and unite. As she looked toward the horizon, Sofia knew there would still be difficult days ahead, but now she felt stronger. The fight for inclusion and acceptance was a journey, and she was ready to face it head-on, with courage and hope. The road would be long, but the flame of resistance was lit, and Sofia would not give up. Sofia was in a moment of transformation. The fight that had begun as a defense of her dignity was now becoming a larger mission. She was not only seeking space for her voice, but also wanted to give voice to those who felt silenced. The difficult experience of the previous night, with the criticisms and attacks, made her realize that overcoming was not just about facing opponents, but about facing herself. In the days that followed, Sofia began to understand that self-confidence was a muscle that needed to be exercised. Every message of support she received, every conversation she had with Anna and Rafael, helped her grow stronger. She started to realize that she didn't have to carry the weight of the fight alone. Accepting help from friends was an important step. Together, they formed an even stronger bond, a mutual support that became essential in times of adversity. The meetings they held bore fruit. The idea of creating a community event that promoted inclusion and respect began to take shape. Sofia dedicated herself to planning everything with care, knowing that every detail could make a difference. But even with all the preparation, the shadow of Mendonça's group still loomed over the town. They were persistent, and with every step Sofia took, she felt the pressure of a possible negative reaction. One day, while reviewing the preparations for the event, Sofia received a particularly cruel message. The urge to give up arose, like a threatening shadow. But, looking at the list of support she had, she felt an impulse to stand up. It was a moment of failure and rebirth. Instead of letting herself be defeated, she decided to transform that pain into fuel. The frustration motivated her to work even harder to make the event a success. The day of the event arrived, and the central square was filled with people. Sofia felt her heart race. There was nervousness, but also a new hope. She recalled the lessons she had learned throughout her journey. The importance of listening, connecting, and acting with empathy. As she stepped onto the stage to speak, she realized she was not alone. The faces of Anna, Rafael, and many supporters encouraged her. Sofia began to share her story, her struggle, and her hopes. As she spoke, she saw tears in the eyes of some people. She realized that success was not just about numbers or applause, but about touching lives. The event transformed into a space for dialogue, where people from different backgrounds came together to share experiences. It was a moment of reflection and wisdom, where everyone could learn from each other. However, it was not easy. During the event, The Mendonças appeared again with posters and shouting. The atmosphere became tense, but instead of retreating, Sofia took a deep breath. She remembered that true success was the ability to stand firm in the face of adversity. She invited the opponents to join the dialogue, and surprisingly, some accepted the invitation. This openness brought a new understanding, allowing different views to be discussed. Sofia realized that the friendship she had with Anna and Rafael was not just a source of support, but also a strength that helped her grow. They were her allies, and together they became an example of how diverse thoughts could create a stronger community. The unusual friendships that emerged during these meetings were proof that, even in differences, there was room for respect and understanding. When the event ended, Sofia felt a wave of emotion. She had faced her greatest challenges, both internal and external. Fear and insecurity still existed, but now they were accompanied by a new sense of purpose. She understood that her fight was not just for herself, but for all those who felt invisible. Looking toward the horizon, Sofia knew that there would still be difficult days ahead, but the flame of resistance was ignited within her. With each step she took, she became more confident, stronger. The path of inclusion and acceptance was long, but she was determined to walk it. The journey would not be easy, but now, Sofia had the tools and support needed to continue. And with that, her transformation was just beginning. Sofia was ready to face her greatest challenge. The day of the event had arrived, and nervousness accompanied her like a shadow. She knew it would not just be a celebration of inclusion, but a battle against the voices trying to silence her. Looking at the gathered crowd, she felt a mix of hope and fear. The words of support from Anna and Rafael echoed in her mind, reminding her that she was not alone. When she stepped onto the stage, a respectful silence filled the square. Sofia took a deep breath and began to talk about her journey, about the difficulties she faced and the strength she found within herself. Seeing tears in the eyes of some people, she realized she was touching hearts, that her struggle resonated with many who were there. But, deep down, the shadow of opposition haunted her. She knew the Mendonças were nearby, and as expected, they appeared. With signs and shouting, they tried to interrupt her speech. The atmosphere became tense. Sofia felt her heart race and her hands tremble. The pressure was palpable. But instead of retreating, she decided it was time to act. She remembered the conversation she had with Anna and Rafael about the importance of dialogue and empathy. With courage, she paused and invited the opponents to join the debate. To her surprise, some of them accepted. The tension in the air was intense, but Sofia remained calm. She realized this was the decisive moment. With a firm look, she began to engage in dialogue with one of the group members, a man who seemed as determined in his opposition. Listening to his words, she saw there was a story behind that hatred. He spoke about his own insecurities, his fears about the future. Sofia then shared her own vulnerabilities, her internal struggle, and how her journey had taught her the importance of inclusion. What began as a confrontation soon transformed into a conversation. The crowd, initially divided, began to listen. The supportive voices that once shouted against the Mendonças had now become a chorus of understanding. Sofia saw that by opening her heart and listening to others, she was creating a space for empathy. The friendships that formed amid the conflict became a symbol of hope. Anna and Rafael stood by her side, encouraging this exchange. Together, they showed that even in differences, it was possible to find a path to peace. The dialogue intensified, and the energy in the square changed. People began sharing their own experiences, their struggles, and victories. Sofia's story was not just hers. It was the story of many who felt invisible. Amid all this, the Mendonças, who had once been a symbol of opposition, began to question their own beliefs. The man who had once shouted was now listening, and that made all the difference. Sofia realized she had overcome her greatest challenge. It was not just about winning a battle, but about transforming a conflict into an opportunity for learning. As she looked at the crowd, she saw illuminated faces. The fear that had accompanied her was now replaced by a feeling of accomplishment. She had found her voice and, more importantly, the strength to use it. When the event came to an end and people began to disperse, Sofia felt a wave of emotion. She had faced not only the Mendonças but also her own insecurities. The journey of renewal was just beginning, but now she had the tools to continue. The failures of the past had made her stronger, more resilient. And as she looked at Anna and Rafael, she realized that the friendship she had built with them was a fundamental pillar in her life. Sofia understood, in that moment, that true success was not about being applauded or recognized, but about having the courage to fight for a fairer world. Reflecting on her journey led her to understand that inclusion and respect were values that should be cultivated every day, and, as she walked toward the future, she knew that each step taken toward overcoming was a victory not just for her, but for all who dreamed of a better tomorrow. Sofia's transformation was a testament that, even in the face of adversity, there was always room for hope and change. After the event, Sofia felt a mix of relief and euphoria. The square, which had once been filled with tension, now vibrated with lively conversations. People gathered in small circles, sharing their stories, laughing, and even hugging those who had once been strangers. For Sofia, it felt as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. The echo of the voices that had tried to silence her had now turned into a chorus of support. She walked among the groups, listening to fragments of conversations that moved her. A woman said, "I had never thought of it this way," while a man next to her nodded in agreement. Sofia realized that the dialogue she had initiated was not just about her, it was an open door for others to confront their own prejudices and fears. Anna and Rafael joined her, broad smiles on their faces. Anna said, "You were amazing, Sofia. I can hardly believe what happened," her eyes shining with pride. Rafael, always practical, added, "And most importantly, you showed that empathy can overcome hate." Sofia smiled, but a part of her was still processing everything that had occurred. She confessed, "I didn't expect things to change so quickly. I just wanted to be heard." Rafael placed a hand on her shoulder. "And you were, more than that, you helped others hear each other too." As they talked, Sofia spotted the man who had argued with her during her speech. He was now in a corner, speaking with a group of young people. Curious, she approached and listened as he said, "Sofia made me realize that inclusion is not just about others, it's about ourselves. We also need to open up." His words had a profound impact on Sofia. It was proof that change was possible, starting with each of us. The following days were marked by a new atmosphere in the community. The event had planted a seed of dialogue and empathy that began to bloom. Sofia and her friends were invited to meetings, debates, and even workshops on inclusion. The square, which had once been a battlefield of opinions, had now become a space for learning and growth. However, the transformation was not instant. Sofia realized there was resistance, and some people still struggled to change their beliefs. In one of those meetings, one of the most fervent opponents, an older man, raised his voice. "I don't agree with all of this. I can't just accept that everything I believed was wrong." Sofia took a deep breath, knowing that patience was key. "It's true, change is not easy, but maybe we can start talking and understanding each other's viewpoints." And so, the conversations continued. With each meeting, Sofia felt stronger and more confident. She had learned that her voice was not just for fighting oppression, but also for building bridges. Her friendship with Anna and Rafael solidified even further, and together, they became an example of how dialogue and empathy could transform reality. One afternoon, as she walked through the park with them, Sofia reflected on her journey. "I never imagined I could make such a difference," she said, looking at the trees that swayed gently in the wind. "I just wanted to be heard. And now I see that there are so many voices around me that also need to be heard." Anna agreed. "And the beauty of it all is that each voice has the power to inspire another. You started this wave, Sofia, and we can't stop here." Rafael added, "The important thing is to keep going. Each conversation, each act of inclusion matters." Sofia smiled, feeling warmth in her heart. The fight for inclusion and empathy was a long journey, but now she knew she had allies. The fear that once accompanied her was replaced by renewed determination. She was not just fighting for herself, but for all those who dreamed of a fairer world. And so, Sofia moved forward with hope and courage, ready to face the next challenges. The transformation that had begun that day on stage was just starting to spread, and she was excited to be part of this change. Sofia looked around and saw how the square had transformed. What was once a place of confrontation was now a space for unity and learning. The voices that had once seemed so distant were now interwoven in a harmonious sound. She realized that by sharing her truth, she had created a safe space for others to express themselves as well. Each story told, every tear shed, and each smile exchanged were signs that change was happening. Sofia's journey had not been easy. She faced resistance and misunderstandings, but each challenge strengthened her. She learned that empathy is a powerful tool, and that sometimes true courage lies in listening to and understanding others, even when it means confronting her own beliefs. With each encounter, Sofia became a more confident leader, a voice that inspired those around her. She realized that her role was not just to speak but also to listen. Each person who approached her brought with them a world of experiences, and each of those experiences was a valuable piece of the puzzle of coexistence. The older man who had opposed her at the beginning began to change his stance. He attended meetings with less anger and more curiosity. Sofia remembered how he had acknowledged that inclusion was not just about others, but also about himself. This made her realize that change does not happen overnight, but is a gradual process filled with small steps. And every step taken was a step toward a fairer future. Over time, the bonds of friendship between Sofia, Anna, and Rafael became unbreakable. They were not just friends, but partners in a mission. Together, they were creating a support network that spread throughout the community. The conversations they had now were filled with dreams and plans for the future. The desire to see a better world united them, and they were determined to make a difference. Sofia reflected on her achievements. She had overcome her insecurities, discovering that her voice mattered. She understood that each person who approached her was an opportunity to learn and grow. The journey that began with a desire to be heard evolved into a commitment to listen to others, to be an advocate for inclusion and empathy. As she walked through the square, a feeling of peace enveloped her. She knew she had not only restarted her life but also the life of the community around her. The transformation she had initiated was not just about her, but about all those who felt invisible. It was a new chance for everyone to come together around understanding and mutual respect. Sofia smiled as she realized that the fight for inclusion was not just a battle, but a shared journey. With a heart full of hope, she looked to the future, ready for new challenges. And the most important lesson she had learned was that each of us has the power to spark change, a dialogue, a new beginning. And so, she invites everyone to reflect. What changes can you initiate in your community? How can you be the voice that brings hope and empathy? Share your experiences, your reflections. Your voice matters too, and together, we can build a fairer world. Click like here and subscribe so that more stories like this can be told. Change starts now. What was the moment that touched your heart the most in this story? We really want to hear your opinion, so leave a comment below and share your reflections with us. Your perspective is essential to us and helps us spread even more engaging stories. If you know someone who could be inspired by this narrative, don't hesitate to share the video. Together, we can spread moments that illuminate and transform. And if you are looking forward to more stories that capture the essence of life and emotion, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you will be the first to know about new videos that promise to take you on new emotional adventures. If you like this story, leave your like. I look forward to reading your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next exciting story.